Councillor Heilwyn, over to you.
Thank you, Carol. Yes, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. We'll do introductions first. I'm County Councillor Heilwyn Hume, and I'm obviously chairing this meeting today. Councillor Adrian, would you please introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I'm Councillor Adrian Jones for the Bearview and Castle Coranian Ward.
Okay, and Councillor Deb Edwards.
I'm Councillor Deb Edwards for Llangantlle with Norton Ward.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome. Justin Davis.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Justin Davis. I'm the applicant's representative.
Welcome to you. Michael Lynch.
Hello, good morning. My name's Mike Lynch. I live in Brecon and I represent the Lounge Bar and Cafe, High Street, Brecon.
Good morning, welcome. Simon Jones. Simon Lewis.
Good morning. I'm Simon Lewis. I'm the licensing officer presenting the report today.
Good morning and welcome to you. And Colin Edwards.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name's Colin Edwards. I'm a solicitor with Powys County Council, and I'm going to clerk the meeting here today.
Thank you all. Okay, that's all the introductions done. So now we'll go.
Councillor Heilwyn, can I just interrupt? There's Rod Bowen.
Right, okay, and let me just go across my screen. Rod, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm Rod Bowen. I'm the Police Licensing Officer. Good
morning and welcome to you. Thank you.
Morning, Rod.
And then we've also got Councillor Danny Beebe as well.
Oh, yes. Councillor Danny, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Good morning. I'm Councillor Danny Beebe for the Churchtown Ward. I sit on the licensing committee, but I'm only here today as observation. I will not be taking part in any votes or discussions. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that, Danny. Right, okay, we now go over to Simon Lewis to take us through this application to vary a licence at the Lounge Bar Brecon.
Thank you, Chair. The application today is to vary the premises licence at the Lounge Cafe Bar, 21A High Street, Brecon, LD3 7LA. The application is that on the 7th of September 2022, an application, which is at Annex A, to vary a premises licence, which is at Annex B, was received from Michael David Lynch and Samantha Jane Tregalas for the Lounge Cafe Bar. The premises is a bar licensed to sell alcohol, provide entertainment and late night refreshment. The current premises license was granted under the Licensing Act 2003 following a hearing in 2005. The hearing was required as there were representations from Powys Environmental Protection based on complaints of excessive noise. The details of that hearing are at Annex C. The applicants and the licensing authority satisfied procedural obligations by consulting the responsible authorities and advertising the application. The applicants had applied for a variation to the premises licence, authorising the sale of alcohol, entertainment and late night refreshment for an additional hour on Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sundays preceding bank holidays. Therefore, these three activities will be licensed until 3 AM on these days. The application for the entertainment and the late night refreshment will later withdrawn. Please see Annex D, following initial objections from Powys County Council Environmental Protection and the police, leaving only the application that the alcohol could be sold until the later 3 AM time on these dates. So therefore, the only thing we're talking about today is the application for the sale of alcohol to be extended until 3 AM on the days that was outlined. So that at that point, the police and the Environmental Protection withdrew their objections. The applicants also agreed to new conditions being placed on the premises licence at the request of the police, which are set out in Annex E. just to clarify, the hours open for the premises for these days, i.e. Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sundays, preceding bank holidays, the hours open to the public will be extended to 3:30 a.m. Representations. Responsible authorities. There are no objections from the responsible authorities. However, I must point out that Powys Environmental Protection pointed out 7 separate complaints about excessive noise over the Jazz Festival in 2022. Powys Trading Standards also raised the issue of the closure order given to the premises due to COVID regulation breaches and the sale of alcohol breaching the minimum unit pricing regulations in August of this year. The licensing authority will confirm that a closure order under the COVID regulations was issued to the premises in November 2020. This was following an incident of disorder investigated by police and CCTV being viewed, which showed an obvious lack of control and serious breach of COVID regulations. In addition, a warning letter was sent to them regarding a breach of the condition relating to all windows and doors being closed after 2300 hours. In this instance, on the 12th of August 2019, it was reported by a complainant that the front doors were left open and not closed until the police attended at 00:20 hours. Objections from other persons are outlined at Annex F and G. Chair, would you like me to read through their objections in full, or has everyone had a chance to read them?
I'll ask the panel. Have you had a chance to read the objections?
I have.
And you, okay, and Debbie?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, then, Simon, that's fine. No problem.
Okay, I'll continue to your options then. So obviously you've got the 2 representations, one from Councillor Ringberg and the other one from the other member of the public who doesn't want to be named. The options here, in determining the application for premises licence, the subcommittee must take such steps as considered appropriate to promote the licensing objectives, which are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. Annex H of the pack contains an extract from the current Powys licensing policy relating to the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, and the prevention of public nuisance. The options today are A, grant the application as submitted by the applicant without modification, with the exception of the inclusion of mandatory conditions under the Licensing Act 2003. Or B, grant a license with modified conditions. Or C, reject the whole or part of the application. Determination. The licensing subcommittee is requested to determine the application. That's the end of the report.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, we normally allow questions if there are any questions of Simon, despite what our written procedure states. So if you want to ask if anybody has any questions of Simon.
Certainly, thank you. Okay, you heard that. Has anybody got any questions that they wish to ask Simon?
From my part, Ma'am, there are matters that are raised in Mr. Lewis's report, but which can be addressed, I think, by way of me making representations to the committee about those matters. That I wouldn't frame them as questions, but they're matters that I will return to as I work through submissions on behalf of Mr. Lynch.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I have got one question, Simon. You made reference to police conditions. Can you yourself or Rob Bowen confirm what those conditions
I
are?
can if you want to, Rod, because I've made a point of marking out what the differences are in the conditions. Whether you want to do that, Rod, as you were in negotiation, matter for you. I'll just go through the new conditions are that the door staff required, the SIA door staff, will now be in attendance when music is played above background levels on every Saturday, whether there's music or not, and on a Sunday, which forms part of the bank holiday weekend. So that's a more stringent condition regard to the door staff being at the premises.
Okay.
There's a second condition which tightens the CCTV coverage, which basically it ensures that the CCTV is more available to the police and can be easier accessed to the police by the premises. There's a third condition which tightens supervision of the premises. So that's a personal license holder should be present on the premises from 9 p.m. on every Saturday and a Sunday of a bank holiday weekend when any entertainment is provided at the premises. So not only has there got to be a designated premises supervisor for the premises, but somebody who actually holds a personal license to sell alcohol has got to be present at the premises, which wouldn't normally be the case for a licensed premises. So that's quite an onerous undertaking by the premises to have somebody who's had that training present.
And that's from 9 p.m. on those days.
Yeah, that's from 9 p.m. on every Saturday and Sunday of a bank holiday weekend.
Okay.
And then the fourth one is that the premises shall use and have in place a suitable counting device from 9 p.m. until closure of the premises on any night when the premises is providing entertainment outlined on condition 1, and the maximum capacity of the premise shall be set in line with that identified in any fire risk assessment for the premises. 5 is no new customers shall be permitted entry to the premises after 2 a.m. on any Thursday, Friday, Saturday, on a Sunday, which forms part of a bank holiday weekend. So those are the 5 upgraded conditions which they've agreed to go on the license.
Excellent, excellent, very good, very, very interesting, and you know, I can see where they're coming from. Far much greater control. Yeah, very much so. Okay, okay. Has anybody else got any questions for any Rod Bowen from the police licensing? Otherwise, we will go to Michael Lynch or his representative.
Yes.
If I may, sorry, Mr. Davis, if I may just clarify the point around the SIA, if I may, condition 1, which is within your packet Annex E, ma'am. On every Saturday night, the door staff shall be work as outlined by Mr. Lewis. Also, the point that I wish to emphasize is that any night that regulated entertainment is provided during the week, again, those conditions would apply. I think Simon suggested that it may well be that they wouldn't, but no, it is on if they had decided to do any regular entertainment on the Thursday or the Friday, they again would need to be subject of the same conditions as they would for the Saturday. And what I'm trying to emphasize is that every Saturday night, whether it is regulated entertainment or not, the SIA requirement is needed. And that is what Mr. Lynch and Miss Sam Trigalas accepted during our discussions.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for that clarification. Very much appreciated. Right, okay. Right, has anybody else got any questions? Or if now we'll go to Justin Davis.
Thank you, Ma'am. Before I address you, I simply wondered whether there was anything that Mr. Bowen would like to add in relation to his dealings with Mr. Lynch in the preparatory stages and in the consultation phases, and for any views that he may have in relation to the application. If he has anything, this might be the opportune moment to do that.
Excellent. Okay, back to you, Rob, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Davis. Obviously, in my role as the police licensing officer, I needed to look at the application in relation to 3 main issues and 3 main licensing objectives, particularly the issue around prevention of crime and disorder, prevention of public safety, and prevention of public nuisance. As Mr. Davis indicated, we did have, and I did undertake several meetings with both applicants and myself. I've always been able to work with Mr. Lynch and Ms. Tregalas in an open manner. I found them very supportive in the past in relation to any observations that I have had and asked of them. And there was no change in relation to how they were in relation to this application. They were always someone who I could approach, and I was able to have a discussion. There were further issues raised in relation to the number of SIA. I did indeed ask for a further SIA to be employed to make it 4 on a Saturday when the upstairs area was open. But in fairness to Mr. Lynch and to Ms. Tregalas, when they produced evidence of the steps that they've taken to ensure that the premises was adhering to each of the licensing objectives, I accepted that my fears were allayed slightly in relation to the steps that they had taken, and I was able to accept the existing numbers that were already on the license itself. As outlined in the report by Mr. Lewis, there were concerns in relation to certain breaches around the COVID procedure, but again, during that process that we dealt with that, again, they were approachable, they accepted their responsibilities, and they accepted that they had made mistakes. I haven't and didn't spend any great deal of time looking in relation to noise pollution issues, because in my opinion, that doesn't fall under anything that the police should be enforcing and looking at, although I'm obviously well aware that we do and have had in the past complaints of noise, as has been outlined by Mr. Lewis in his report. So yes, there is some concerns around that noise element, but again, I feel that that's something that the environmental health team and their noise pollution officers would be dealing with as opposed to me directly. So I accept that there are issues around noise issues, which I think the panel will need to consider when they are making their final decisions. But in fairness to Mr. Lynch and to Ms. Tregalas, they have been very approachable, and I have found them very easy to work with in the past, and I hope that would continue.
Just before you finish, Rob, you mentioned SIA. Can you give us the full title?
SIA, basically, it's the Security Industry Authority. They provide registered door staff. So what we're looking at is to make sure that the door staff that they employed are specifically registered with the Security Industry Authority. They therefore are persons who would have the appropriate training in dealing not only with incidents of disorder, but general management of the late nighttime economy and issues around licensed premises. So they are specifically trained individuals who have specific training.
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, Justin, would you now like to, well, sorry, has anybody else got any further questions for Rob with regards to his last statement? No? Okay, Justin Davis, would you like to come in now and make your representation, please?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. So as you know, I represent Mr. Lynch. You'll all have seen on the screen that Mr. Lynch is joined by another individual. I'm going to identify him for 2 purposes. First, of course, is the record. So on screen, you'll also be able to see Dan. Dan is the head doorman at the premises. And because there has been such discussion about SIA, and as it's been alluded to already in this hearing, Dan is here to deal with any of those issues, any questions that you may have, but also to give you an indicator of how importantly and how seriously Mr. Lynch takes those issues. He's arranged for his head doorman to be present today to hear what is said about it, so that there can be no doubt about what is going on now and in the future. And so I'm identifying him for those purposes too. Can I begin the submissions by giving you some context in relation to this application and why it is being made? It's being made by Mr. Lynch, who has 21 years of experience in the licensing trade in Brecon. He has, in that time, as you can imagine, served thousands of customers at his premises, which he estimates to be a mix of around 50% of local and 50% from the tourism trade. During the course of his undertakings, he has used and continues to use a number of local providers for produce that is served at his premises, and in that time has employed dozens of people locally. At the present time, there are 12 individuals who rely on his premises for their livelihoods. There are, as the committee I'm sure will be well aware, a number of chain licensed premises that have opened up in the Brecon area over the last few years, and that has meant that at times it has become difficult to compete, and particularly when there are other licensed premises in the locality that have licenses to operate in the exact way that Mr. Lynch is now applying to operate under. So in other words, serving until 3 a.m. To give two particularly acute examples of the context, the first is that on a Saturday night recently, which was a Rugby International Day, operations were particularly tough, with takings that evening, Mr. Lynch tells me, of being £199. And so the economy, such that it is at the moment, is making it difficult to operate. Another issue that weighs heavily on him, and in part is a motivator for this application, is that from the 14th of this month, the electricity bill for the premises is going to go from £900 a month to £3,000 a month. And that already presents a rather bleak outlook for the premises, and hence in part the reason why strenuous efforts are being made to try and improve the operation there. But even against that background, Mr. Lynch is acutely aware of his obligations as a responsible operator, and you've heard what Mr. Bowen has said about his history of being able to deal with Mr. Lynch in the past now, and there is every reason to think that that very measured and very calm and very responsible approach will continue into the future. What I would encourage you to place a great deal of emphasis on in this particular application is that there are no objections from any of the responsible authorities. They have all been consulted in the proper way. The application has been advertised in the proper way. And on the application that comes before you today, there are no objections from any of those responsible authorities, meaning that insofar as they are concerned, they are satisfied that this application and this operation will not offend against any of the licensing objectives to which you must have regard. You will also have seen what I think can fairly be described as the high degree of cooperation between Mr. Lynch and the responsible authorities in refining the application that comes before you today. He has listened very carefully to what the authorities have said in the past and has reflected on that and amended the application so that it is in the form that you must consider today. And that, I think, allows you to take from it a high degree of confidence that these are properly managed premises that are being overseen by a highly experienced individual who has a good working relationship with those authorities, such as you have heard this morning. There has been, as you've also heard, further agreement from Mr. Lynch about additional considerations and additional conditions that further strengthen and address the underlying issues and those which may have given rise to concern. And those are, I would encourage you to accept, are onerous, which was a term that used earlier on this morning. They are onerous undertakings for a premises such as Mr. Lynch's, but they are nevertheless measures that he was happy to put in place because that is what the responsible authority wanted. You have, though, I also have to accept that you have some representations that have been made recently in relation to noise. But in that respect, can I invite you to have regard to these factors? The first is that there is nobody here today to speak to them. And that means that I can't, Mr. Lynch can't, and you as a committee can't explore those in any great detail. Nobody can answer questions about them. Nobody can be asked to expand on them, clarify them, or indicate how precisely those objections can be attributed to the operations of the lounge as opposed to other licensed premises operating in the area. To give you some example of that, there is reference in Councillor Reinenberg's representations to noise attributable to the lounge at 3 AM over the Brecon Jazz Festival period. Mr. Lynch is clear that that noise could not have been so attributed because on that occasion there was a temporary event notice in place that covered operations only until 2:30. Likewise, it is very important in my submission to bear in mind that when one considers noise, that is a matter that the local authority through its Environmental Protection Department has a statutory obligation to enforce. But 2 points arise from that. The first is that there is no evidence of the service of any noise abatement notices, so using statutory powers to curtail noise, and no evidence of any prosecutions or other enforcement action being taken by the Environmental Health Department, who, it must be borne in mind, was consulted as part of this application and has raised no objection. And so whilst you have details in the material that is before you of noise complaints, the absence of a formal objection, the absence of any noise abatement notices, and the absence of any enforcement action must lead you to the conclusion that those issues notwithstanding, the Environmental Protection Department is content that the licensing objectives are not infringed or undermined by this application. Insofar as the reference is made to the closure notice under the COVID restrictions, it's accepted by Mr. Lynch that that occurred. It was for a period of 4 days. And it was in response to some over-exuberant customers, I'm told, who were allowed to mix together for the first time in I'm told, around 4 months. But you've heard too what Mr. Bowen said about Mr. Lynch's response to that he was able to discuss the matter with Mr. Lynch, and Mr. Lynch demonstrated insight into where things could have been done better. What I'm told in relation to the action that was taken was that rather than it being arrived at following a viewing of CCTV footage, Mr. Lynch's understanding is that it was arrived at following the viewing of some Facebook footage that had been posted online. Nothing turns on that, but it's simply a point of clarification that arises from the report. Can I also deal with the issue that's put out in the report in relation to the alcohol minimum pricing issue and the sale of alcohol? My instructions from Mr. Lynch is that matters did not in fact go that far. There was no sale of alcohol in breach of those requirements. What this relates to is a promotion that was intended to be operated at the lounge, but was not put in place because advice had been received by Mr. Lynch that doing so might, and the emphasis is on might, have offended against the minimum pricing requirements. And so that's the proper context in which that should be viewed, that this was an idea that was floated, it became known, but following receipt of concerns, Mr. Lynch reviewed that, and that promotion ultimately was not run, and there was no sale of alcohol in breach of those requirements. The other issue that one has to bear in mind when looking at, in broad terms, the representations that have been made in relation to noise, bearing in mind the point I've made earlier about not being able to explore those, one of those objections is anonymous. And so from that, it is also exceptionally difficult for Mr. Lynch to get to the bottom of that, engage with it, and give some thought as to whether and to what extent those concerns could be further ameliorated. It is important in proceedings such as these that those who object and make representations with a view to discouraging a committee from taking a particular course of action is able to make good on those assertions in a forum like this and to be able to be asked questions about them. And that's not anything that you, Mr. Lynch, or anyone else in this meeting is able to explore today. So I invite you to approach that with a significant degree of caution, as well as looking at those broad representations and bearing very, very heavily in mind that they appear in part to relate to concerns in relation to operations in Brecon generally. Concerns such as people making their way home, concerns about littering, concerns along those lines must be treated with very great care and caution, because they cannot be evidenced to be direct consequences of the operation at the lounge. There are, as you know, a number of licensed premises operating with the same or similar hours in the town centre. And a point that I've been asked to make, particularly in relation to that, is that many patrons, some patrons who turn up later on in the evening at the lounge will come from other licensed premises in Brecon, where the doors are not as tightly controlled as they are at the lounge. The effect of that is that they will sometimes turn up with glasses and other paraphernalia from other licensed premises that don't tightly control their doors, and they turn up with that material at the lounge, where efforts then have to be made to dispose of that material that comes from elsewhere. And what patrons do on their way to and going from other premises cannot be a responsibility of Mr. Lynch to police. And so one has to look at that issue too. Mr. Lynch, it's a peripheral issue, so I will deal with it very, very quickly. But Mr. Lynch took some exception to the suggestion in the representations that he paid insufficient attention to the frontage of his premises. As I say, it's a peripheral issue, so I'm going to deal with it very, very quickly. Safe to say that the premises themselves frequently undergo maintenance. The windows are cleaned regularly, the frontage has been painted, and new windows have been installed for two reasons. First, because they are double glazed and that assists with noise, but second is to do with the general appearance of those premises. I deal with it quickly because it was a concern that Mr. Lynch has. It does not relate directly to the licensing objectives, and I'd encourage you just to focus yourselves purely on the licensing objectives in that respect. There is, as you've heard, stringent measures now in place in relation to door supervision at these premises. The effect of the conditions, I'm told, is that this is going to make the lounge one of the most tightly controlled doors in Brecon. The effect of having to have door supervision when there is music above background noise is in effect that there will be door supervision at these premises every Thursday, Friday and Saturday, and on every Sunday preceding a bank holiday. That goes far in excess of provision in other premises in Brecon, and far in excess of the provision that is put on by the multiple chains that are now in Brecon. Stepping back and having regard to all of that, committee, my submission to you is that you can be entirely confident, both from the absence of objections from the responsible authority and from the attitude that you have heard about from Mr. Bowen today, that this variation will not undermine any of the licensing objectives. You can be satisfied that Mr. Lynch listens carefully when he is engaged on matters such as these. You can be satisfied that Mr. Lynch is a fit and proper person, to use a term from another setting, but a fit and proper person to be involved in the management of these premises, bearing in mind his experience and the package of measures that are in place, which are onerous, even in the face of strained financial circumstances, will give you confidence in the operation of these premises now and in the future. And what this seeks to do is to put these premises on a level playing field with other premises in Brecon, so that the challenging economic times that faces Mr. Lynch's premises and other premises could be ameliorated to some extent by allowing this application. Chair, that's what I propose to say to you by way of submissions on behalf of Mr. Lynch. But I've said to him that if there is anything else that I have left out that he particularly wants to highlight to you, I'd say that. And also to say that he would be happy to answer any questions that you as a committee have.
Thank you, Justin Davis. Mr. Lynch, at this moment, is there anything that you wish to add?
Well, I thought there might be, but listening to that, I don't think there can be, really. I think he said it all, you know, I'm a passionate person, very, very passionate about the town I live in. I have taken exceptions to a couple of the things that have been said, but I'm very proud of the town. You know, I'm very proud of what I've done over the last 20 years, but it's just also wants a level playing field. It's very, very difficult at the moment to survive, really. And it's going to get tougher. And also, I'm not asking for any more than anybody else has going to got. Just asking for the same. And what we do it well, and we provide and have done for over 20 years. Good, safe, nice outlets. And that's all I got to say, really. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, over to the councillors now, Councillor Adrian and Councillor Debs. Are there any questions that you'd like to put towards Justin or Mr. Lynch here now today?
Chair, could I just ask Mr. Lynch, I noticed on his application it's for sale of alcohol on and off the premises. Can you give us an indication of how much alcohol is sold to go off the premises? And do other establishments do that as well?
Well, sometimes when in very rare occasions, actually, does it get sold off. Very rare. But there's a lot of caravans in Brecon, and this summer's been particularly poor. Trade's down. The airports are back open. But we do on occasions just to get someone staying at a caravan or want to go home and take a bottle of wine home. But percentage wise, you're talking single figures, less than that, low single figures. Very, very, very not frequently at all. Well, you know, Dan, that you stand on the door inside and out, and it's very, very rare.
Yeah, every so often we might have a couple come in.
Yeah.
If it's about, say, 11 o'clock, they don't particularly want to go out for the night in Brecon, but obviously past 10 o'clock, there's nowhere else to purchase alcohol. They'll come in and ask, could they purchase a bottle of wine, or could they maybe purchase 4 or 5 bottles of Corona or something? And they don't want to stay in the pub and drink it, they want to take it home with them. But it's very rare that it actually happens, but it does happen on occasion.
It does on odd occasions, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Councillor Debs, do you have any questions you wish to put forward?
No, I don't think I have. I think it's all been covered quite well.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Right, if nobody has any further questions, we will now go to the breakout room to deliberate this application based on the information we have been presented with today.
Chair,
Yes,
I wonder, does the police licensing officer have anything he wishes further to add?
Rob?
The only thing that I would like to add, Chair, is that obviously if the application is granted, I would just like to emphasize the need on Mr. Lynch and his staff. The adherence to those new conditions and amended conditions is vital in relation to the continuing sort of general management of the premises. It's something that the conditions have been added because of the fears that I had in relation to the venue having these extra hours, and provided obviously that those conditions are adhered to, I think it will allay those fears. And I just want to emphasize the need for Mr. Lynch to understand the implications now and what these new conditions are, and to ensure that his staff have an understanding about what those new conditions mean as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you
Chair,
very
Can I
much.
just, could I just add something in for you a second? So in terms of the amendments of,
Bank holidays.
yeah, bank holidays, for example, we said we're needing those staff on a Sunday, preceding a bank holiday. That is something that we actually already do. And also the no entries after 2 AM. We've already addressed that matter ourselves. And we already stop entry at 1:45, not 2 o'clock. So we already understand that. We see it as being something which needs to be done. And we actually stop them earlier than what you're asking us to do.
Okay, thank you, Dan, for clarifying that. Much
Chair,
appreciated. Yes,
could I just ask one more question to Mr. Lynch, please?
certainly.
Mr. Lynch, what's your normal trading on normal Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays? Is it busy, or is it primarily the weekends that the trade peaks at?
Unfortunately, because the town of Brecon, I think, has gone, and I would know because I've lived here for 54 years and I've had different businesses here, it's gone backwards. So we're more profitable, closed currently Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday daytime, Thursday daytime, Friday daytime, Saturday daytime, and Sunday daytime. And that's a poor reflection. But especially with the way the electric bill is going to go now, which I can't believe is happening, I pay my staff well, so it's actually more profitable to close. I wish that wasn't the case. I did run the Bank Baron Kitchen for 10.5 years. And we were only closed Christmas days. But over the last 12 months, unfortunately, things have taken because it's just the way things are going. So to answer your question, at the moment, we're only open Thursday evenings, Friday evenings, Saturday evenings. Remember, for one reason or another, a lot of chains have been allowed to come in to a small market town. And I said to you earlier on, all I'm asking is to be given a chance to compete. I can't compete against Witherspoons, Enterprise Inn, who own Crafts, in the Sarah Siddons, Brains, Costa Coffee. We used to have a great coffee trade. Got coffee number one. They've all been allowed to come in, all of them. But it's a detriment to other pubs and other small family businesses, I promise you. I've been, for all my life since I finished school, myself, it's very, very, very tough. Very tough. It is.
So
Unfortunately, at the moment, I would love to have a coffee trade in the daytime and be open. I really would. But with, as I said, with the wages we pay, with the heating, the electrics, the lights, just don't get the trade. You know, honestly, it is so close, that place at the moment. I don't want to go too deep into this, but I put a lot of money back into that 4 years ago, spent a lot of money redoing it. 21 years ago, I gutted the building. It was an eyesore. 4 years ago, I did the same again, give it a facelift. In 4 years, obviously, because COVID, people come out later at night now than when we were drinking when we were younger. It's changing. It's very, very, very difficult. Very difficult. So we're only open currently, but I'd love to be open 7 days a week, all day, thriving. But we're just losing too much money.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. Much appreciated. Okay,
Chair,
are there?
sorry to interrupt once again, but
Okay.
with your permission, I wonder, could I ask Simon Lewis another question? Because
Certainly.
I have a feeling you may ask me in the breakout. Reference has been made to other premises. I think in the context that they already have a license permitting them to open till the hours applied for in respect of this license, and particularly in respect of chains have been mentioned. Do you have any information for the panel on that, Simon?
I can't give you specific hours because there are a number of premises in Brecon. Obviously, each premises will have their own licensable activities and hours. That would be something that I would need to research and come back to you with all the premises in Brecon and the hours that they've got.
Okay.
I don't know, Rod, are you aware of maybe exact hours for certain premises? I couldn't give them off.
When I considered this application, I did review it against premises that I would say from a local knowledge were sort of rivals, for want of a better phrase, then to Mr. Lynch. I can confirm that one of the premises, Bar Rocks, has alcohol sales until 3 a.m. I can also confirm that the Sarah Siddons has alcohol sales till 3 a.m. as well on the days that obviously Mr. Lynch was asking for. The Sarah Siddons is owned by a chain and Bar Rocks is owned by an individual as opposed to a chain.
Can I just say something? What was what's the license on the bank as well, Rod?
Yeah,
That
I haven't
was-
got the
that
bank.
was-
They haven't got the precise bank time for the bank in front of me because obviously it hasn't been
Three-
operating. But I believe it
Three-
was until 3 a.m. as well. It would have
Yeah,
been similar
yeah,
to what
well-
you've got at the lounge.
It was 3 o'clock, yeah. 3 o'clock and 45 minutes drinking at time, 3:45.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you, Colin. Okay, everyone. We will now break out into the breakout room to deliberate this application and go through all the information that we've been presented with this morning. Carol, where do we go now?
Yep, I'll just pause the recording. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Thank you once again, and thank you to all the officers and guests this morning for the information that has been put before us. Based on the police conditions that have been already mentioned this morning with regards to door staff in attendance on Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, CCTV coverage to be more available to the police, supervision in attendance of a licensed person from 9 p.m. on a Saturday and Sunday on a bank holiday weekend, a counting device to be used to ensure capacity is not exceeded, and no new customers after 2 a.m. Based on those conditions and provided that they are adhered to, this committee are happy today to approve this application.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. On behalf of Mr. Lynch, can I thank you and your colleagues for the attention that you have given to the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
No, thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Carol?